My name is Meghan, a 32-year-old software engineer from Boston who automated a pipeline that transformed a struggling startup into a $201 million empire. I never expected my expertise in coding would lead to the biggest confrontation of my career. When my sister had a life-threatening accident, all I wanted was time off to care for her children. Instead, I faced the CEO's wife who coldly told me, "That's not happening." I never imagined my code would become both my shield and sword in the battle that followed. If you're watching this from a toxic workplace, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're from. Trust me, you'll want to see how I stood my ground when everything was on the line. I graduated from MIT with honors in computer science, specializing in automation and machine learning. My professors called me a coding prodigy, but I just saw myself as someone who could talk to machines better than most people. After turning down offers from several tech giants, I chose Tech Dynamics, a scrappy startup with a promising pipeline management software, but inefficient processes that limited their growth potential. The company had secured enough funding to survive for 18 months, but they needed a breakthrough to become truly competitive in the market. When I first walked into their office 3 years ago, the energy was palpable. 20 developers crammed into an open floor plan, fueled by ambition and energy drinks. James Wilson, the CEO, greeted me with enthusiasm that seemed genuine. He was in his early 40s, charismatic, with a vision for transforming how businesses managed their sales pipelines. "We have the foundation," he told me during my interview, "but we need someone who can take our system to the next level." Adam Martinez, the CTO and my direct boss, impressed me with his technical knowledge and seemingly supportive management style. He was brilliant when it came to system architecture, but hesitated whenever difficult conversations arose. "Meghan has exceptional skills in automation that could revolutionize our core product," he told James during my final interview. I later learned this endorsement came despite Beverly Wilson's reservations about hiring me. Beverly Wilson. Just typing her name makes my fingers tense up on the keyboard. As the CEO's wife and vice president of human resources, she wielded influence that extended far beyond her official responsibilities. With a background in business administration but limited technical knowledge, she managed to insert herself into every decision. During my onboarding, she made it clear that she expected absolute commitment from all employees. "Tech Dynamics isn't just a job," she said, with a practiced smile that never reached her eyes. "It's a family." The only genuine connection I formed was with Rachel Thompson, a front-end developer who started 2 weeks before me. We bonded over late-night coding sessions and shared frustration with the company's inefficient approval processes. "Every good idea gets filtered through Beverly first," Rachel warned me during my second week. "And God help you if she thinks you're outshining her." I also noticed Gregory Parker, a board member who occasionally visited the office. Unlike the other executives who barely acknowledged the development team, he asked thoughtful questions about our work and seemed to genuinely understand the technical challenges we faced. "The future of this company depends on innovation at the code level," he told me after I presented an early project. "Never underestimate your value here." Despite these personalities and politics, I initially thrived at Tech Dynamics. The company had a solid foundation, but desperately needed optimization. Their pipeline management software helped sales teams track potential deals through various stages, but it was clunky and often crashed under heavy loads. I quickly identified several performance bottlenecks and implemented solutions that doubled the system's capacity within my first 3 months. James was ecstatic with the improvements, but I noticed Beverly's subtle attempts to minimize my contributions during team meetings. "The entire team has been working toward these improvements," she would say, deliberately avoiding mentioning my name when results were presented to investors. 6 months into my time at Tech Dynamics, I discovered something that would change everything. While analyzing our system performance data, I noticed patterns suggesting our entire approach to pipeline management was fundamentally flawed. The current system processed every transaction sequentially, creating massive bottlenecks during peak usage. With the right algorithm, we could parallelize these processes and potentially increase throughput by 10 times. I spent 2 weeks developing a detailed proposal complete with performance projections and implementation timelines. When I presented it to Adam, his eyes widened. This could be revolutionary, he admitted, but it would require rebuilding our core architecture. Beverly has been pushing to focus on new features instead of infrastructure. Despite Adam's concerns, I insisted on presenting my findings to the executive team. The meeting that followed revealed the company dynamics that would later become my battleground. James was immediately enthusiastic about the potential. Adam offered cautious technical support. Beverly, however, was openly skeptical. This sounds like a massive undertaking that could destabilize our existing customer base, she argued. We need to focus on growth, not rebuilding what already works. I countered with data. Our current architecture can't scale beyond 50,000 concurrent users. We're already at 38,000 during peak hours. Within 6 months, we'll hit a wall that no amount of patching can fix. The room fell silent. Finally, Gregory Parker, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Potential growth is irrelevant if our system collapses under its own weight. I believe Meghan's analysis warrants serious consideration. With Gregory's backing, James reluctantly approved a limited pilot to test my approach, though Beverly managed to restrict my resources and impose an aggressive timeline that seemed designed for failure. As I left that meeting, I didn't realize I had just set in motion events that would culminate in the most challenging and revealing period of my professional life. The automation project began as an uphill battle. Beverly ensured I received minimal resources, assigning me just 2 junior developers when I had requested a team of 5. Prove your concept works before asking for more, she said with a dismissive wave. The timeline she imposed gave us just 60 days to rebuild a core system that had originally taken the company 18 months to develop. I took the challenge personally. My typical workday extended from 7 in the morning until midnight, 7 days a week. I converted my apartment living room into a secondary development environment with monitors displaying performance metrics and code repositories. My refrigerator contained nothing but energy drinks and microwave meals. Personal life. That became a distant concept. The technical challenge was immense but exhilarating. The existing pipeline architecture processed sales opportunities through 12 sequential stages from initial lead to closed deal. Each transition required multiple database operations and triggered notification systems that often created deadlocks. My solution implemented a revolutionary parallel processing approach, where independent operations could proceed simultaneously with a sophisticated conflict resolution algorithm handling potential data collisions. This is like replacing the engine of a car while driving at 70 miles per hour, I explained to Rachel during one of our rare lunch breaks. She had become my sounding board, offering both emotional support and occasional technical insights from the front-end perspective. Adam provided technical guidance when asked, but remained noticeably absent from daily operations. I later discovered that Beverly had suggested he focus on other initiatives. She thinks your project is a distraction, Rachel confided after overhearing a conversation between Adam and James. Despite these obstacles, we achieved our first breakthrough 4 weeks into the project. My parallelization algorithm successfully handled a simulated load of 100,000 concurrent transactions with 98% reduced latency. When I showed Adam the results, he finally showed genuine enthusiasm. This could transform our entire business model, he admitted. The next morning, I found Beverly waiting at my desk. I understand you've been making progress, she said, examining her manicured nails. I need comprehensive documentation and a presentation for the board meeting next week. I worked through the weekend preparing materials that would translate complex technical achievements into business impact. The presentation highlighted how my automation would allow the company to scale from serving medium businesses to enterprise clients with minimal additional infrastructure costs. The projected impact showed potential revenue growth from $50 million to over $200 million annually within 2 years. At the board meeting, I delivered what I considered the most important presentation of my career. The board members leaned forward as I explained how my algorithm could transform the company's future. Gregory Parker asked insightful questions that helped emphasize the innovation's value. Even James seemed impressed, nodding enthusiastically as I described the potential for market expansion. Then Beverly took the floor. What Meghan has described represents the culmination of our strategic infrastructure initiative, she said smoothly. My department has been guiding this development process to ensure alignment with our business objectives. I sat stunned as she continued to describe my innovation as if it had been her brainchild all along. When a board member specifically asked about the technical implementation, she deflected. Our team has handled those details under my direction. The important thing is the business impact, which I've outlined in the reports before you. That evening, I began meticulously documenting everything about my work. Every line of code included detailed comments tracing back to my original design. I implemented a discrete logging system that recorded who made each significant contribution. It wasn't paranoia if someone was actually taking credit for your work right. Despite Beverly's attempts to control the narrative, the next phase of implementation proceeded rapidly. As we moved the system into production, the results exceeded even my optimistic projections. Transaction processing times decreased by 95%. System capacity increased by a factor of 15. The sales team suddenly found themselves able to handle enterprise clients whose complex needs had previously overwhelmed our system. Revenue growth followed immediately. By the end of the first quarter after implementation, monthly recurring revenue had increased by 60%. 6 months later, we crossed the $100 million annual revenue threshold. After 18 months, the company valuation hit $201 million, attracting acquisition interest from several major tech companies. Throughout this growth period, Beverly continued her campaign of appropriation. In investor meetings, she referenced my strategic initiative when discussing the automation system. She arranged for industry magazine interviews where she detailed her visionary approach to scaling technology operations. Meanwhile, I received no official recognition, no raise, no equity adjustment to reflect my contribution to the company's transformation. You need to speak up, Rachel urged during one of our coffee breaks. Everyone in engineering knows this was your creation. The code speaks for itself, I replied. And I've documented everything. When the time comes, there won't be any question about who built this system. Little did I know how soon that time would arrive, or that it would come from an unexpected personal crisis rather than a professional confrontation. The call came at 2:37 in the morning. I had fallen asleep at my desk again, waking to the vibration of my phone against a stack of technical specifications. The hospital number on the screen immediately sent my heart racing. Is this Meghan Mitchell? The voice belonged to an emergency room doctor. Your sister Amanda has been in a serious car accident. She's in critical condition. We need you to come right away. My sister Amanda lived 3 hours away with her 2 children, Emma, age 7, and Noah, age 4. As a single mother, she had named me as the emergency contact and guardian for her children if anything happened to her. We had always been close, especially after our parents passed away 5 years earlier. I rushed to the hospital, my mind racing between concern for Amanda and the practical implications. We were in the final stages of implementing a major system update with a demonstration for potential acquirers scheduled for the following week. Beverly had been micromanaging every aspect, positioning herself as the project leader. At the hospital, the situation was worse than I had imagined. Amanda had suffered severe head trauma and internal bleeding. She's stable but critical, the doctor explained. We've induced a coma to reduce brain swelling. The next 72 hours will be crucial. Emma and Noah sat huddled together in the waiting room, their small faces pale with confusion and fear. When they saw me, they ran into my arms, their bodies trembling. Where's Mommy? Is she going to be okay? Emma asked, her voice barely audible. The doctors are taking good care of her, I answered, holding them tight while fighting back tears. She needs to sleep for a while to get better. Reality set in quickly. Amanda would be hospitalized for an unknown period, possibly weeks or months. Her children needed immediate care, and I was their only family. I called Adam at 5 in the morning explaining the situation and requesting emergency family leave. Of course I understand completely, Adam said, his voice sympathetic. I'll let HR know and get everything processed right away. Take whatever time you need. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. 2 hours later, as I was arranging temporary housing for the children near the hospital, I received a text message from Beverly. Please come to my office at 2 p.m. today regarding your leave request. I spent the morning making frantic arrangements. A social worker helped me obtain temporary guardianship papers. I contacted Amanda's neighbors to collect essential items from her house. I arranged for Emma's school to send coursework and spoke with Noah's preschool about his situation. Through it all, I kept the children close, trying to provide stability amid their world crumbling. At 1:30, I left Emma and Noah with a hospital volunteer and drove to the office, arriving exactly at 2 p.m. Beverly sat behind her immaculate desk, not bothering to look up from her computer when I entered. Sit down, she said finally, her voice clipped. She closed her laptop and fixed me with a cold stare. I understand you've requested emergency leave. Yes, I replied, explaining Amanda's condition and my responsibilities as guardian for her children. Beverly's expression remained impassive. This is an extremely inconvenient time for you to be away. The system demonstration for potential investors is next week, and we need you to address any technical issues that arise. I can handle technical emergencies remotely, I offered. But I need to be with my niece and nephew. They've just lost access to their mother and have no one else. Remote work is against company policy during critical business periods, Beverly stated flatly. Your absence would send a negative message about your commitment to this company. This is a family emergency, I insisted. The company policy explicitly allows for family leave in these circumstances. Beverly's eyes narrowed. Company policies are guidelines, not guarantees. As VP of Human Resources, I determine how they're applied based on business needs. She leaned forward slightly. Let me be clear, your position here is not irreplaceable. Many engineers would jump at the opportunity you've been given. My hands began to shake with a mixture of disbelief and anger. Are you saying I can't take legally protected family leave to care for my sister's children after her life-threatening accident? I'm saying that your choices have consequences, she replied coolly. Tech Dynamics has invested considerably in your development. We expect loyalty in return, especially during critical business periods. She slid a document across the desk. This is a performance improvement plan. Your recent distraction has been noted in your file. Sign this and return to your regular duties tomorrow, or we'll need to reconsider your role here. I stared at the document, then back at Beverly, scarcely believing what was happening. My sister could die, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her children have no one else. That's unfortunate, Beverly replied without emotion. But personal problems shouldn't become company problems. Your job, or your family, choose. I left her office in a daze, the unsigned document clutched in my hand. For the next 3 days, I attempted an impossible balancing act. I brought Emma and Noah to a hotel near the office and worked remotely when they slept, coming in for essential meetings while leaving them with expensive last-minute sitters. Amanda remained in critical condition, with doctors growing increasingly concerned about her lack of responsiveness. On the 4th day, everything collapsed. Noah developed a high fever, crying for his mother. The sitter called during a crucial meeting with investors. When I excused myself to take the call, Beverly's glare followed me out of the room. That evening, the doctor called with worse news. Amanda had developed complications and required additional surgery. I can't make promises, he said gently, but you should prepare the children for the possibility that their mother may not recover. Sitting in the hospital waiting room, holding a sleeping Noah while Emma colored quietly beside me, I made my decision. Family came first. If Tech Dynamics couldn't respect that basic human value, then perhaps I needed to reevaluate my place there. The next morning, I sent a formal email to Adam, Beverly, and James, explaining that I was taking my legally protected family leave effective immediately. I attached documentation from the hospital and the temporary guardianship papers. I ended the email with, I remain committed to the company's success and will address any critical technical issues remotely as needed. Beverly's response came within minutes. Unauthorized absence will be treated as job abandonment. All company accounts will be suspended within 24 hours. Return all company property immediately. I forwarded the entire exchange to my personal email, then backed up all my documentation and code logs. Something told me I would need them soon. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of hospital visits and childcare. Emma and Noah moved into my apartment, sleeping on an inflatable mattress in my home office. I established routines to create some stability in their lives, while spending afternoons at the hospital where Amanda remained in critical condition but had stabilized somewhat after her second surgery. Between caring for the children during the day and sitting with Amanda during evening visiting hours, I worked through the nights. Not for Tech Dynamics, but for myself. Beverly's actions had triggered something in me, a determination to understand what was really happening at the company I had helped transform. I started by researching employment law regarding family medical leave. The company's actions were not just ethically questionable, but potentially illegal. Then I began examining other instances where employees might have faced similar treatment. Using my professional network, I connected with former colleagues who had left the company over the past year. A pattern quickly emerged. Sarah from marketing had been denied bereavement leave when her father died. Jason from sales had been placed on a performance improvement plan after requesting time off for his wedding. Most telling was Diane from product management, who had been terminated shortly after announcing her pregnancy. Beverly called it a restructuring, Diane told me during a phone conversation, but I was the only one restructured out of a 15-person department. I created a spreadsheet documenting every case I could find. When I sorted the data, another pattern emerged. Women were denied leave requests at 3 times the rate of their male counterparts. Employees who had challenged Beverly directly were terminated within 6 months 90% of the time. But I needed more concrete evidence. Using a virtual private network to mask my location, I accessed my backup of the company's development logs. What I found shocked me even more than Beverly's treatment of employees. For months, Beverly had been sending emails to the executive team taking credit for the automation system's success. My strategic initiative has yielded the projected results, she wrote in one message to investors. The technical team executed my vision effectively. In another email to the board, she referred to my innovative approach to pipeline parallelization. More disturbing were messages where she instructed middle managers on how to handle female employees. Women need to earn their place more than men do, she wrote to a recently promoted team lead. Make them prove their commitment before approving any special accommodations. As I dug deeper into the financial reporting systems, I discovered something that made my blood run cold. The metrics Beverly presented to the board and investors consistently overstated her department's contributions, while minimizing the impact of technical innovations. In one presentation, she had claimed that strategic HR initiatives were responsible for 40% of the company's recent growth, while the automation system I had built was categorized under routine technical maintenance. I needed to understand the full extent of the misrepresentation. Using my knowledge of the system architecture, I traced every transaction processed through the automated pipeline since its implementation. I created visualizations showing the exact correlation between my code deployment and the company's revenue growth. The data told an irrefutable story. Over 85% of the company's growth to $201 million in valuation came directly from my automation system. As I compiled this evidence, I realized I needed an ally within the company. Gregory Parker, the board member who had always shown interest in the technical details, seemed the most likely candidate. I found his contact information and sent a carefully worded email I have discovered concerning discrepancies in how company innovations have been represented to the board and investors. These discrepancies may constitute material misrepresentation. Are you available for a confidential discussion? His response came within an hour. I've had similar concerns. Can you meet tomorrow? The following afternoon, while Emma and Noah were at a hospital playgroup session organized for children of patients, I met Gregory at a coffee shop 3 miles from the Tech Dynamics office. I brought my laptop and a thumb drive containing all my evidence. For 2 hours, I walked him through everything I had discovered: the systematic discrimination, the credit theft, the financial misrepresentations. Gregory asked occasional clarifying questions, but mostly listened intently, taking notes on a small notepad. "This is more serious than I suspected," he said finally. "The board has been making decisions based on fundamentally false information." He looked at me with newfound respect. "What do you want to happen here, Meghan?" I had thought about this question extensively. "I want 3 things," I answered. "First, I want my family leave approved retroactively with full pay as should have happened initially. Second, I want proper attribution for my work on the automation system. And third, I want Beverly's discriminatory practices addressed, so no other employee faces what I did." Gregory nodded slowly. "Those are reasonable requests considering the alternatives." He closed his notepad. "The board meets the day after tomorrow. Be ready to present your findings." As I prepared for the board meeting, Amanda finally regained consciousness. Her recovery would be long, but the doctors were cautiously optimistic. I explained to Emma and Noah that their mother was awake but very tired, and they would be able to see her soon. For the first time in weeks, I saw genuine smiles on their faces. With renewed determination, I finalized my presentation. I organized my evidence chronologically, creating a clear narrative that even non-technical board members could follow. I practiced my delivery repeatedly, ensuring I could remain calm and factual despite the personal nature of the situation. The night before the meeting, I received a text message from Rachel. "Beverly is on the warpath. She's telling everyone you abandoned the company and sabotaged the system before leaving. Be careful." I thanked Rachel for the warning, then double-checked all my documentation one final time. Tomorrow would determine not just my future at Tech Dynamics, but potentially the company's future as well. The Tech Dynamics boardroom featured floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Boston skyline. When I arrived, the 10 board members were already seated around the massive mahogany table. James Wilson sat at the head, looking uncomfortable. Beverly was beside him, whispering urgently in his ear. She froze mid-sentence when she saw me enter, her expression shifting from surprise to contempt. Gregory Parker nodded slightly in acknowledgement as I took the seat he had saved across from Beverly. Adam Martinez avoided eye contact, entirely studying his tablet with unusual intensity. The other board members watched with curious expressions, clearly wondering why an engineer was attending their meeting. "Now that everyone is here," Gregory began, "I've called this emergency session to address concerns about potentially misleading information provided to this board regarding company performance metrics and attribution of innovation." Beverly immediately straightened. "If this concerns the unauthorized actions of a former employee," she said, gesturing dismissively toward me, "I've prepared a full report on the situation." "Actually," Gregory replied calmly, "Meghan Mitchell is here at my invitation to present findings directly related to company governance. I believe the board should hear her evidence before drawing conclusions." James cleared his throat nervously. "I'm not sure this is the appropriate forum for personnel matters." "This extends far beyond personnel," Gregory countered. "This concerns the integrity of the information upon which we base our strategic decisions. Meghan, please proceed." I connected my laptop to the projection system, feeling Beverly's glare as I pulled up my presentation. Taking a deep breath, I began. 3 weeks ago, I requested emergency family leave after my sister was critically injured in an accident, leaving her 2 young children in my care. Despite company policy and federal law supporting such leave, I was not only denied, but threatened with termination. I displayed the email exchange with Beverly alongside the company policy text. Beverly interrupted immediately. Meghan abandoned her responsibilities during a critical business period after months of deteriorating performance. We have documentation of numerous deficiencies. Interesting timing for those deficiencies to appear, I responded calmly, clicking to the next slide. Especially considering this performance review from 2 months ago, where James himself rated my contributions as exceptional and transformative to company growth. Several board members exchanged glances. I continued methodically, showing the pattern of discriminatory leave denials, particularly targeting women. With each slide, Beverly's interruptions became more frantic and less coherent. Then I moved to the core of my presentation. Beyond the concerning HR practices, I've discovered a pattern of misattribution regarding the company's primary growth driver, the automated pipeline system. I displayed the before and after metrics of the system implementation alongside the revenue growth correlation. This innovation, which I conceptualized, designed, and implemented with minimal support, transformed Tech Dynamics from a $50 million company to a $201 million company in 18 months. That's a gross oversimplification, Beverly interjected. The growth resulted from a strategic initiative I developed and supervised across multiple departments. The code tells a different story, I replied, my voice steady, and my code doesn't lie. I proceeded to show the commit logs, the documentation trail, and the system architecture diagrams, all clearly tied to my work. I displayed emails where Beverly had claimed credit to investors alongside the actual development timeline, proving she had no meaningful involvement. Most concerningly, I continued the financial presentations to this board systematically misrepresented the source of company growth. I showed side-by-side comparisons of Beverly's presentations versus the actual system performance metrics. The discrepancies were impossible to ignore. One board member, an older woman I recognized as the former CEO of a major tech company, leaned forward. "Are you suggesting these misrepresentations were deliberate?" "The evidence speaks for itself," I replied. The same automated system that generated the performance metrics also recorded who accessed and modified the reports. Every instance where technical contributions were minimized and HR initiatives inflated can be traced directly to Beverly Wilson's account. The boardroom fell silent. Beverly's face had lost all color, but her eyes blazed with fury. James looked physically ill, alternating between staring at his wife and the damning evidence on the screen. "This is absurd," Beverly finally sputtered. "She's manipulated this data to deflect from her own abandonment of the company. She has no proof of any discrimination." "Actually," I said quietly, pulling a small device from my pocket, "I do." I placed my phone on the table and played the recording I had made during our last meeting. Beverly's voice filled the room. "Your job, or your family. Choose." The transformation in the room was immediate. The board members, who had seemed merely concerned now, looked openly disturbed. Gregory Parker sat back with a grim expression of vindication. James Wilson put his head in his hands. "You recorded me illegally," Beverly hissed, but her voice lacked conviction. "Massachusetts is a one-party consent state," I replied. And given the nature of the conversation, I felt it prudent to document it. The board chair, a distinguished-looking man in his 60s, finally spoke. "I think we've heard enough to warrant immediate action." He looked around the table. "I move that we place Beverly Wilson on administrative leave, pending a full investigation into these allegations, and that we reinstate Meghan Mitchell with full back pay for her family leave period. Do I have a second?" Gregory and 3 others raised their hands simultaneously. "The motion carries," the chair declared. "James, given your personal relationship with Mrs. Wilson, I suggest you recuse yourself from the investigation process." James nodded numbly, unable to look at either Beverly or me. "Miss Mitchell," the chair continued, "the board extends its sincere apologies for your experience. Your family leave is approved effective, immediately retroactive to your original request date. We'll need your continued cooperation with the investigation, but that can be arranged around your family responsibilities." "This is outrageous." Beverly stood gathering her papers. "You can't possibly take the word of one disgruntled employee over years of dedicated service." "We're not taking anyone's word," the chair replied firmly. We're following the evidence, which appears both substantial and troubling. Security will escort you from the building and collect your company devices. As Beverly was led from the room, she stopped beside me. You'll regret this, she whispered. Emet Hergaza steadily. I already regret not speaking up sooner for everyone else you hurt. After Beverly left, the meeting continued for another hour as the board asked detailed questions about the automated system and my documentation methods. I answered truthfully and comprehensively, careful to maintain a professional tone despite my emotional exhaustion. As the meeting concluded, Gregory approached me. That was one of the most compelling presentations I've seen in 30 years of board service, he said. What you did today took extraordinary courage. I just followed the data, I replied. The truth was always there in the code. Not everyone would have fought for it, he countered. Take your family leave. Be with your sister and her children. Your position here is secure, and I suspect there will be significant changes by the time you return. I left the Tech Dynamics office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The battle had been necessary, difficult, and ultimately successful. Now I could focus completely on what mattered most, helping Amanda recover and providing stability for Emma and Noah. With my family leave officially approved, I dedicated myself entirely to Amanda's recovery and caring for Emma and Noah. Amanda remained hospitalized for 3 more weeks before transferring to a rehabilitation facility. The children settled into a routine, attending nearby schools while I worked remotely during their school hours. Gregory kept me updated on developments at Tech Dynamics. The internal investigation expanded quickly, uncovering more extensive problems than even I had documented. Beverly had systematically undermined talented employees, particularly women who might have challenged her authority. Financial misrepresentations extended to investor presentations and potential acquisition discussions. 2 months after the board meeting, I received an official communication Beverly had been terminated for cause following the investigation's findings. Legal action was being considered regarding her financial misrepresentations to investors. Perhaps most surprisingly, James had submitted his resignation, acknowledging his failure to provide proper oversight. The board has appointed an interim CEO while conducting an executive search, Gregory informed me during one of our weekly calls. We're also completely restructuring the HR department with an emphasis on equity and transparency. 4 months after my confrontation with the board, Amanda had recovered enough to return home with ongoing outpatient therapy. Emma and Noah returned to their schools, though they spent weekends with me to give Amanda time to rest. With my family situation stabilized, I felt ready to return to work. My first day back at Tech Dynamics was almost unrecognizable from the company I had left. Carolyn Weber, the interim CEO, welcomed me personally. Your situation highlighted serious cultural problems that we're committed to addressing, she explained. We've implemented new policies regarding leave requests, innovation, attribution, and transparent reporting. Adam approached me awkwardly that afternoon. I should have stood up for you, he admitted. I knew what Beverly was doing was wrong, but I was afraid for my own position. Fear is a powerful motivator, I acknowledged. But so is integrity. I hope you'll choose differently next time. The team has missed your technical leadership, he replied. We've maintained the automated system, but no one understands it as you do. The engineering department had grown substantially in my absence. New developers had been hired to expand on my automation architecture, though Rachel told me they had struggled to fully understand its complexity. They keep saying, we need to ask Meghan about this part. She laughed. Carolyn called me into her office during my first week back. The board has reviewed your contributions to the company's success and found them severely undercompensated, she said, sliding a document across her desk. This represents our effort to correct that oversight. The paper detailed a significant promotion to Chief Technology Officer, a salary increase of 70% and substantial equity in the company. I was momentarily speechless. Additionally, Carolyn continued, we'd like to implement your approach to code attribution company-wide. Your documentation methods preserved the truth when others tried to obscure it. We believe that level of transparency should be standard practice. Over the next 6 months, I led the technical transformation of Tech Dynamics with a focus on both innovation and ethical practices. We expanded the automated pipeline system to handle more complex business relationships, increasing the company's value to $350 million. Rachel received a well-deserved promotion to lead the front-end development team. Adam grew into a more assertive technical leader, advocating strongly for his team's needs. The company culture steadily shifted toward one of mutual respect and recognition of contributions. Most significantly, we implemented a comprehensive ethics framework for our automation systems. Technology without ethical guidelines is just power without responsibility. I explained during an all-hands meeting. Our code doesn't just process transactions. It reflects our values as a company. We established a technical attribution system where every significant innovation was properly documented and credited to its creators. Compensation became directly tied to measurable contributions rather than political relationships. Leave policies were not just reformed, but actively promoted as essential to employee well-being. Gregory, who had become a mentor during this period, stopped by my office one afternoon. "You've created something remarkable here," he observed. "Not just the technical systems, but a blueprint for how technology companies should operate." "I just wanted the truth to be recognized," I replied. "Everything else followed from that." "Sometimes the truth needs a champion," he said thoughtfully. "You stood up not just for yourself, but for everyone who had been silenced. That's a rare kind of courage." A year after my confrontation with Beverly and the board, Tech Dynamics had been completely transformed. Our reputation in the industry shifted from an aggressive, sales-driven culture to a model of technical innovation and ethical leadership. Multiple articles featured our approach to attribution and employee support as examples for the industry to follow. Amanda had recovered well enough to resume part-time work, though she and the children had moved closer to me. Our family bonds had strengthened through the crisis, creating a support network that balanced professional ambition with personal values. The pipeline automation system continued to evolve under my guidance, becoming even more efficient and capable of handling increasingly complex business relationships. What had begun as a $201 million valuation grew to over $500 million within that transformative year. Most importantly, I had found my voice as a leader who valued both technical excellence and human dignity. The code I had written had indeed become both shield and sword in a battle for truth. But the victory wasn't just personal. It had created space for others to thrive as well. The journey from threatened employee to company leader taught me lessons that extended far beyond technical skills or career advancement. In the 18 months since the confrontation that changed everything, I've reflected deeply on what it means to build technology with integrity and lead with both competence and compassion. The initial aftermath was not without challenges. I struggled with recurring anxiety sometimes, waking in the middle of the night convinced I would lose everything I had fought for. A therapist specializing in workplace trauma helped me process these feelings and develop healthier responses to stress. "What you experienced was a form of institutional gaslighting," she explained during one session. "Your reality was systematically denied and replaced with a false narrative. Rebuilding trust in your perceptions takes time." Connecting with support groups for women in technology proved invaluable. Hearing similar stories from brilliant women who had faced their own versions of Beverly helped normalize my experience and reduce the isolation. These connections evolved into a formal mentorship network that now supports over 300 women navigating challenging workplace dynamics. Amanda's recovery brought our family closer than ever before. Emma and Noah still spend every other weekend with me now, as a cherished tradition rather than an emergency measure. "You're the reason Mom came back to us," Emma told me during one of our baking sessions. "You fought for all of us." At Tech Dynamics, I implemented systematic changes to protect others from experiencing what I had endured. We developed a comprehensive ethics framework for automation technology that emphasized transparency, proper attribution, and human-centered design principles. This framework has since been adopted by several other companies in our industry. Technology amplifies human intentions, I often remind my team. Our responsibility extends beyond what the code can do to what it should do. The company continues to thrive with revenue exceeding projections quarter after quarter. The pipeline automation system has expanded to handle increasingly complex business relationships across multiple industries. What began as a technical solution to processing bottlenecks has evolved into a platform that transforms how companies manage their entire business operations. Perhaps most meaningful has been the opportunity to mentor other engineers, particularly women with brilliant ideas who might otherwise be silenced or sidelined. Rachel has become a powerful technical leader in her own right recently, presenting our framework at a major industry conference. "I learned from watching you stand your ground," she told me afterward. "You showed me that technical excellence and personal integrity are inseparable. I've developed a philosophy that guides both my technical work and leadership approach. Code with integrity, document relentlessly, and never forget that technology serves humans, not the other way around." This philosophy has attracted like-minded engineers to our team, creating a culture where innovation flourishes alongside mutual respect. The lawsuit against Beverly was settled out of court with significant financial penalties for her deliberate misrepresentations. James Wilson found a position at a smaller company where, according to mutual connections, he has become a more attentive and involved leader. I wish them both the clarity to recognize and correct their mistakes. Gregory Parker remains on our board and has become a valued mentor. "You transformed a crisis into an opportunity for systematic improvement," he observed recently. That's the essence of true leadership. My own life has found a healthier balance. I still love coding and often work late solving complex technical challenges, but I no longer sacrifice everything for work. Weekends are reserved for family, friends, and recharging. I've rediscovered old hobbies and developed new ones, remembering that being a complete human makes me a better engineer, not a distracted one. The automated pipeline that began this journey continues to evolve, now processing transactions worth billions of dollars annually. But its greatest value isn't measured in revenue or processing efficiency. Its true worth lies in the precedent it established that technical innovation must be paired with ethical standards and proper recognition. The code I wrote automated a pipeline worth millions, but the code I live by, integrity, family, and truth, that's what made me truly invaluable, and no one can take that from you. If my story resonates with your own experiences, please share in the comments below. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a professional setting? What gave you the courage to do so? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about finding your voice in challenging circumstances. Remember, sometimes your greatest strength isn't what you build, but what you stand for. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you the clarity to recognize your own worth, even when others try to diminish it.